Part 6 of the Existence and Attributes of God by Stephen Charnock. On God's being a spirit. Use. If God be a pure spiritual being, then, firstly, man is not the image of God according to his external bodily form and figure. The image of God in man consisted not in what is seen, but in what is not seen. Not in the conformation of the members, but rather in the spiritual faculties of the soul, or, most of all, in the holy endowments of those faculties. Ephesians 4, verse 24. That ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. The image which is restored by redeeming grace was the image of God by original nature. The image of God cannot be in that part which is common to us with beasts, but rather in that wherein we excel all living creatures, in reason, understanding, and an immortal spirit. God expressly said that none saw a similitude of him, Deuteronomy 4, verse 15 and 16, which had not been true if man, in regard of his body, had been the image and similitude of God. For then a figure of God had been seen every day, as often as we saw a man or beheld ourselves. Nor would the apostle's argument stand good, Acts 17 verse 29, that the Godhead is not like to stone graven by art, if he were not the offspring of God, and bore the stamp of his nature in our spirits rather than our bodies. It was a fancy of Eusebius that when God set upon the actual creation of man, he took a bodily form for an exemplar of that which he would express in his work, and therefore that the words of Moses are to be understood of the body of man, because there was in man such a shape which God had then assumed. To let alone God's forming himself a body for that work as a groundless fancy, man can in no wise be said to be the image of God in regard of the substance of his body. But beasts may as well be said to be made in the image of God, whose bodies have the same members as the body of man, for the most part, and excel man in the acuteness of the senses and swiftness of their motion, agility of body, greatness of strength, and in some kind of ingenuities also, wherein man hath been a scholar to the brutes, and beholden to their skill. The soul comes nearest the nature of God, as being a spiritual substance, yet considered singly in regard of its spiritual substance cannot well be said to be the image of God. A beast, because of its corporeity, may as well be called the image of a man, for there is a greater similitude between man and the brute in the rank of bodies than there can be between God and the highest angels in the rank of spirits. If it doth not consist in the substance of the soul, much less can it in any similitude of the body. This image consisted partly in the state of man, as he had dominion over the creatures, partly in the nature of man, as he was an intelligent being, and thereby was capable of having a grant of that dominion, but principally in the conformity of the soul with God, in the frame of his spirit and the holiness of his actions, not at all in the figure and form of his body physically, though morally there might be, as there was a rectitude in the body as an instrument to conform to the holy motions of the soul, as the holiness of the soul sparkled in the actions and members of the body. If man were like God because he had a body, whatsoever had a body had some resemblance to God, and may be said to be in part his image. But the truth is, the essence of all creatures cannot be an image of the immense essence of God.